My wife cheated on me with her boss, stole $250, $0 from our joint account to buy him a new house, and now she's trying to claim everything I own in our divorce. I can't believe I trusted her after everything. Hello everyone. Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments section below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Now let's begin the video. Using a throwaway for obvious reasons with certain specifics modified to preserve anonymity. I never thought I'd be the guy writing something like this, but here I am. Just a few weeks ago, I was living what I thought was a normal life with my wife. We had our ups and downs, sure, but I believed she was faithful, loyal, my partner through everything. That was before I found out she had been cheating on me with her boss, Jake. And not just that, she stole over $250,000 from our joint account to buy him a house. Yeah, a whole house, like she was some high roller. It's honestly still hard to wrap my head around it. The weird thing is, I started noticing little things before I even suspected anything. Her mood swings, the late nights she'd claim were work emergencies, her sudden obsession with her phone. At first, I just thought she was stressed or busy. She's always been a little bitchy when she's under pressure, so I didn't think much of it. But then I caught her lying about her whereabouts one night. I remember it clear as day. I came home early from work because I had a feeling, and I saw her sneaking out the back door at 11 p.m., her face flushed and her eyes darting around. When I asked her where she was, she snapped at me, said she was at a friend's house. But I knew better. Something was off. That night I decided to check her phone. I know it's invasive, but I was desperate. I needed to know. And what I found was a flood of texts, flirty, explicit messages between her and Jake, her boss. I saw pictures of them together, kissing, holding hands. I saw messages about breaking up our life together, about her finally being free. It was like a punch to the gut. I couldn't believe it. My wife was cheating on me with her boss, and she was lying to my face about it all along. When I confronted her the next morning, she looked me dead in the eyes and told me I was imagining things, that I was paranoid. She called me crazy, said I was overreacting. She even tried to turn it around, saying I'd been distant lately, that I wasn't paying enough attention to her. But I had all the proof right there in her own messages. Still, she kept lying, insisting she loved me, that it was just a mistake, that she'd never do anything to hurt me. I was furious, but mostly just hurt. How could she do this? How could she betray everything we built together? From that moment, everything changed. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. It was like the floor had dropped out from under me. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. All I could think about was how she'd lied, how she'd manipulated me. And the worst part, I found out that she had been stealing money from our joint account too. Over $250, $0, enough to buy a new house for Jake, her boss. She used our savings, our dreams, to bankroll her affair and her new life with him. I was stunned. How could she be so selfish, so reckless? I started digging deeper. I hired a private investigator, and sure enough, all the signs pointed to her planning to leave me for Jake. She'd already bought the house, I learned, using the stolen money. The house was in her name now. I couldn't believe she'd gone this far, that she'd risked everything, our marriage, my trust, our future, just for some guy at work. It was sickening. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. I thought I knew her, but I was so wrong. Everything I believed about her was a lie. That's when I realized I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with this. I decided I'd fight for what's mine, for the truth, and for my dignity. I wasn't going to let her walk all over me. I started planning my next steps, legal, financial, emotional. I knew I needed to be smart, to stay calm, even if inside I was burning with rage. I had to protect what was left of my life, and that meant confronting her again, but this time with a plan. I guess you could say I was in shock, but also determined. This wasn't just about the money or the affair anymore. It was about the principle. How could she do this? How could she lie to my face, steal from us, and then pretend everything was fine? I still don't fully understand it, but I know one thing. I was done being the naive husband who believed in fairy tales. From now on, I was going to take control, no matter what it took. After I uncovered everything, I didn't sleep for days. My mind was racing, trying to piece together how she could do this, how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to her true nature. The betrayal hit me like a freight train. It wasn't just about the affair or the stolen money. It was about trust, about feeling like I'd been played for a fool. Had always been a little difficult, quick to snap, and she had a sharp tongue, but I never imagined she'd go this far. The first thing I did was get a lawyer. I knew I needed someone who understood the legal side, someone who could help me figure out what I was entitled to and how to stop her from claiming everything I owned. But even that was complicated. She's already trying to spin it, claiming that I was neglectful, that I was emotionally distant, and now she's hinting she might try to claim half of everything. The audacity. She's trying to pretend she's the victim, that I drove her to cheat. Meanwhile, she's out there buying a house with money she stole from us, and I'm supposed to just accept that. In the meantime, I started gathering evidence. Screenshots of the messages, bank statements showing the withdrawals, photos of the house she bought with Jake. I needed proof to show how deep this betrayal went. I also hired a private investigator, which was probably the move I made. Turns out, had been seeing Jake for months. They met at her office, went on secret dates, and she even introduced him to her friends as her business associate. I couldn't believe how deep her lies went. She'd been planning this for a long time, probably since she started that job. One night, I decided to confront her again. I told her I knew everything about the affair, the stolen money, the house. Her reaction was classic. She swore up and down that she loved me, that she'd never cheat, that she was just stressed and made a mistake. She even threw in the usual, "You don't understand me. I was just lonely," bullshit. She said she was sorry, but her eyes told a different story. They were cold, calculating. She was already thinking about her escape route, I could tell. The worst part was when she tried to deny the money theft. I showed her the bank records and she just shrugged, acting like it was no big deal. "It's just money," she said with a dismissive laugh. "You're overreacting." Overreacting? I lost more than money. I lost my sense of security, my respect for her, my trust. How could she be so callous? She kept lying, saying she only did it because she was unhappy, that she didn't mean for everything to happen this way. But I knew better. She planned this and she was still lying through her teeth. The emotional toll was brutal. I felt anger, betrayal, sadness all at once. I'd trusted her for years, built a life with her, and now I was realizing I'd been living with a stranger. Every time I looked at her, I saw a different person, someone who was capable of this level of deception. It was hard not to feel hate, but I also knew I had to stay focused. I couldn't let her see me break. I had to be strong for myself. I started thinking about what I wanted to do next. Part of me wanted to fight her in court, to make sure she didn't get away with this. I knew she'd try to claim half of everything, including the house she bought with the stolen money. But I also knew I couldn't just let her walk away with what she wanted. I had to protect my assets, my future. I began preparing for a divorce, gathering all the documents, making a list of everything I owned, and figuring out what I could prove. The thing that haunted me most was the money. It's not just about the dollars, it's about the betrayal of our shared life savings. I worked hard for that money. I saved, I sacrificed, and she just took it all to finance her affair. That's when I knew I had to act fast. I had to cut her off, stop her from claiming anything she could get her hands on. I also hired a forensic accountant to dig into her accounts, to see if she'd hidden any other assets or if she'd already started planning her escape financially. I won't lie, every day since I found out has been I go from moments of rage to deep sadness to a strange numbness. It's like I'm trying to process a nightmare I can't wake up from. I keep asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to her true nature. But I also know I can't change the past. All I can do now is prepare for the fight ahead, protect what's mine, and try to rebuild my life after she's gone. The betrayal hurts, but I refuse to let it define me. I've got a long road ahead, but I'm determined to come out of this stronger. After I gathered all the evidence and hired the right people, I started laying out my plan. It wasn't just about fighting her in court. It was about stopping her from taking everything I owned, especially the money she stole. I knew she'd try to spin this to her advantage. She's always been good at manipulating people, especially when she's cornered. That's why I had to be meticulous, precise. I couldn't afford to leave any loopholes for her to exploit. One thing I did was get a forensic accountant to track every dollar. Turns out, She'd already moved some of the stolen money into offshore accounts and hidden assets. I wasn't surprised, honestly. Has always been good at covering her tracks when she wanted to. But now, with the evidence on my side, I could prove her actions. I also hired a divorce lawyer who specialized in high net worth cases. I knew this wasn't going to be easy, especially with her trying to claim half of everything: our house, the savings, investments, even my pension. The moment I started preparing for the legal battle, I could feel her panic. Calls and texts became more frantic, more desperate. She'd try to guilt trip me, say I was ruining her life, accuse me of making everything worse. She even tried to threaten me, saying she'd expose me if I didn't back down, but I wasn't backing down. I knew she was just trying to scare me into silence. She always was good at twisting things, making herself look like the victim, even as she was the one who betrayed me first. Her behavior got even more bitchy and manipulative. She'd lash out over tiny things, scream at me for trying to ruin her, and throw around accusations that I was incapable of handling the truth. She insisted she deserved everything because she was the one who sacrificed, even though she was the one who lied, cheated, and stole. I couldn't believe the audacity. She's trying to claim that she's the victim here, that I'm the one at fault. That's her typical tactic: shift the blame and act like she's the innocent party. But I had enough evidence to shut that down. Meanwhile, she kept up her act of being the bitchy wife, snapping at me for the smallest things, trying to make me feel guilty. She'd say, "You're just mad because I don't love you anymore," or "You're insecure," whenever I confronted her. And she'd act like she was the one suffering. Honestly, it was infuriating. I saw through her games. I knew she was trying to distract me, to make me doubt myself, but I refused to fall for it. I was done playing her victim. The worst part was how she kept lying about her motives. She told everyone that she needed a change, that I was a bad husband, and that she was just trying to find herself. Meanwhile, I knew she was out there with Jake, planning her escape, using our money to buy a new house, her dream house with her boss. It was sickening. I kept thinking, how could she be so selfish? She's always been the type to put herself first, but this was next level. She was willing to ruin everything for her own happiness, no matter what it cost me or our life together. I started to realize that I had to prepare for the worst. She might try to fight dirty, maybe even take me to court to claim what she thought she deserved. That's why I set up a detailed account of everything: our assets, debts, income, and all the evidence of her betrayal. I also started talking to friends and family, making sure I had a support system in case she tried to turn people against me or manipulate the situation further. One night, I caught her trying to access our joint account again, probably to hide some more money or transfer assets. That was the last straw. I confronted her directly. I told her I knew everything, how she's been lying, stealing, and using me. I told her I was done playing her game. I was going to fight for what's mine, and she wouldn't get away with it. Her face turned red with rage, and she started yelling at me, calling me possessive, jealous, and paranoid. She said I was trying to ruin her life, but I knew the truth. I was just trying to protect myself and what was left of our life together. Looking back, I see how much I was naive. I thought we had something real. I believed she loved me, but her actions proved otherwise. She's a liar, a thief, and a manipulator. I'm not perfect, but I know I didn't deserve this betrayal, this theft, this emotional betrayal. I've learned a hard lesson about trust, about reading the signs too late, and about how people can surprise you in the worst ways. Still, I'm glad I found out when I did, even if it's been the hardest thing I've ever gone through. Now, I'm focused on protecting myself and moving forward. I just wish I'd seen it coming sooner. The legal process started moving faster than I expected once I had all my evidence in order. My lawyer laid out the options clearly: fight for full custody of the house, seek reimbursement for the stolen money, and prevent her from claiming anything beyond her rightful share. I knew she'd do everything she could to spin the story, make herself look innocent, and try to claim as much as possible. That's why I had to be relentless, precise, and prepared to counter every lie she'd throw at me. During this time, his attitude shifted from bitchy and manipulative to outright aggressive. She'd call me nonstop, demanding I drop everything, claiming I was ruining her life, and insisting she deserved what she's owed. She even accused me of trying to control her, which was laughable considering she was the one sneaking around, stealing money and lying through her teeth. Her words were venomous, but I kept my composure. I refused to be baited into an emotional fight. I knew she was trying to get under my skin, but I wouldn't give her the satisfaction. One afternoon, she showed up at my office unannounced, looking for a confrontation. Her face was flushed, her voice shrill. She started screaming about how I was destroying her reputation, how I was jealous of her happiness with Jake, and how I was a bad husband who didn't deserve her. I just looked at her and said, "You stole from us, lied to my face, and cheated on me. Don't pretend you're the victim here." That shut her up for a moment, but she quickly turned it around, accusing me of trying to control her life and ruining her future. I could see right through her act. She was desperate, cornered, and trying to save whatever she could. Meanwhile, I kept pushing forward with my legal case. I filed for divorce, asked for full custody of the house, and demanded she return the stolen money. I knew she'd fight me tooth and nail, but I had the evidence. I also requested a freeze on her assets just in case she tried to hide anything else or transfer money again. My goal was clear: cut her off from any more resources she could use to manipulate or retaliate. She responded by hearing her own lawyer, of course, and the battle intensified. They tried to argue that I was controlling, that I was emotionally abusive, and that she was entitled to a fair share because she'd suffered enough. It was all part of her usual tactic, playing the victim, trying to turn the court and everyone around her against me. But I knew her game. I had all the proof of her affair, her theft, and her lies. I was ready for whatever she threw at me. One night I caught her at it again, trying to access our joint accounts late at night. I had installed security cameras after her earlier attempts, and I watched her on my phone, frantically trying to transfer more money or hide assets. That was the moment I realized she was planning something else, maybe an attempt to disappear or shield her assets further. I confronted her the next morning, showing her the footage. Her reaction was classic. She got defensive, tried to deny everything, then accused me of stalking her. I told her, "If you're innocent, why are you sneaking around in the middle of the night?" That shut her up for a bit, but I knew she was just trying to buy time. Throughout all this, I felt a mix of anger, frustration, and sadness. I was angry at her for betraying me, for stealing from us, for lying so effortlessly. I was frustrated that I was fighting a woman I once loved, someone I'd trusted with everything. And I was deeply sad, sad that our marriage had come to this, that she could do something so calculated and cold. But I also knew I couldn't let those feelings paralyze me. I had to stay focused. I had to win this fight, not just for the money or the house, but for my own dignity. The worst part was knowing how she was trying to manipulate everyone around her, including friends and family. She told her sister I was abusive, that I was trying to control her, and that I was jealous. None of it was true, but she's always been good at spinning stories to her advantage. I made sure to keep the facts straight, to stick to the truth, and to let my lawyer handle the rest. I knew that once the court saw all the evidence, her lies wouldn't hold up. Still, it was exhausting trying to counter her constant barrage of accusations and manipulations. Deep down, I felt like I was fighting not just for my assets, but for my sanity. Every day brought new surprises, another attempt at deception, another lie, another manipulation. But I refused to let her win. I was done being the naive husband who believed in fairy tales. I was done trusting her. Now, I was all about protecting myself, my future, and my hard-earned money. I knew this battle wasn't over yet, but I was ready for whatever came next. I just hoped that, in the end, justice would prevail. The legal process dragged on, and every day felt like a new fight. His lawyer kept trying to argue that she deserved half of everything, even the stuff she had no claim to, like the house she bought with stolen money, or the accounts she'd tried to hide. She was relentless, throwing everything she had at me: lies, accusations, even guilt. Trips. I stayed focused, though. I knew her game. I'd seen her manipulate her way out of trouble too many times before. One particularly intense day, Her lawyer tried to push a settlement that would give her a significant chunk of our assets, claiming it was fair because she was going through a tough time. I listened to their demands and just shook my head. I wasn't about to let her walk away with everything she'd stolen, especially not that house. I'd worked too hard for what I had, and I wasn't going to let her take it all just because she played the victim. I told my lawyer to push back hard that I wanted everything back, our house, the stolen money, and a clear separation of assets. Meanwhile's behavior got more brazen. She started showing up at the house unannounced, trying to intimidate me, demanding I drop the case or else she'd expose more of my secrets. She'd scream about how I was trying to ruin her future, even though I was just fighting to get back what was stolen and to protect myself. It was clear she was desperate, losing control. I could see her unraveling, her bitchy attitude turning into outright rage. One night she stormed into my place, yelling that I was destroying her life, that I was jealous of her happiness with Jake. I just looked at her and said, "You lied, you cheated, and you stole from us. You've been lying to everyone, including yourself. You don't get to play the victim anymore." She snapped back with some bullshit about how I was controlling her, but I was done buying her lies. I'd seen through her from the start. The real shock came when I got access to the bank records from her hidden accounts. Turns out, she'd already moved a lot of the stolen money offshore, trying to hide it from the courts. That was the moment I knew I'd have to go even harder. I hired a forensic accountant to trace every dollar, and soon enough, I had enough proof to freeze her assets and have her account flagged. She was trying to run, but I wasn't going to let her get away with it. As the court hearings continued, I felt a strange mix of relief and frustration. Relief that I was finally fighting back, and frustration that it was taking so long, that she was still trying to manipulate the system. Every time I thought I had her cornered, she'd come back with a new lie or scheme. It was exhausting. I stayed up late nights reviewing documents, talking to my lawyer, and making sure I was prepared for whatever she threw at me next. Throughout all this, I kept reflecting on how much I'd trusted her. I thought she loved me, that we had a future together. But her actions proved otherwise. She was always more interested in herself, her career, her new life, her own happiness at any cost. That realization hurt worse than anything else. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry. But I also knew I had to keep my head straight. This wasn't just about money or assets. It was about reclaiming my life from someone who had betrayed everything we stood for. I also started leaning on friends and family more. I told a few close people what was happening, not because I wanted to air dirty laundry, but because I needed support. Some tried to convince me to settle, to let her have what she wanted and move on. But I knew better. I wasn't about to let her get away with this after everything she'd done. I had to see it through to the end, for my own dignity and for the principle that cheating and stealing shouldn't pay off. Looking back, I realize how much this experience has changed me. I used to believe in fairness, in honesty, and trust. Now I see the world a little differently. I understand that some people are just out for themselves, no matter who they hurt. I've learned to be more cautious, more guarded. And I've learned that sometimes the only way to get justice is to fight for it yourself. I don't regret standing up for myself, even if it's been the hardest thing I've ever done. I just hope that in the end, I come out of this stronger, and that she finally faces the consequences of her actions. The final court date finally arrived, and I could feel the tension in the room. I knew was going to try every trick in the book to spin her story, to make herself look like the innocent victim, but I had all the evidence on my side. I sat there, feeling a strange mix of exhaustion and relief. The months of fighting, the sleepless nights, the emotional, all of it had led to this moment. I was determined to see it through and get what was rightfully mine. When the judge called the case, his lawyer tried to argue that she deserved a fair share, citing her contribution to the marriage, her hard work, and her emotional suffering. She even threw in some tears, pretending to be the wronged wife. But I was ready. I presented the bank statements, the proof of her affair, the hidden offshore accounts, and the house she bought with stolen money. I laid out every detail, the lies, the theft, the manipulation. I watched her face pale as I told the court how she'd betrayed everything we built together. The judge listened carefully, then made a ruling that felt like justice finally catching up. She ordered to return all the stolen money, to vacate the house she bought with that money, and to pay damages for the financial harm she caused. She also awarded me full custody of the house and the assets I had rightfully earned. His face twisted with anger and disbelief. But there was nothing she could do. The evidence was irrefutable. As I left the courtroom that day, I felt a strange sense of closure. It wasn't just about the money or the house. It was about reclaiming my dignity. I realized that sometimes people reveal their true colors when they're cornered. His true nature had been exposed in the harsh light of truth, and I was finally free from her web of lies. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life. I started therapy to process everything I'd been through and to heal from the betrayal. I also reconnected with friends and family who supported me through the hardest times. I took some time off work to travel and get away from the chaos, to breathe and think about what I wanted next. The pain of her betrayal still lingers, but I know I'm stronger now. Looking back, I realize I learned some important lessons. Trust is fragile, and sometimes people will hurt you in ways you never expected. But I also learned that you have to fight for yourself, no matter how tough it gets. Justice might be slow, but it's worth fighting for. And in the end, the truth always comes out. I hope sharing this story helps someone else who's going through something similar. Don't ever let anyone take everything from you, your trust, your money, your dignity. Stand your ground, gather your evidence, and fight for what's right. Because at the end of the day, no one deserves to be betrayed or stolen from. And if you do what's right, justice will find its way.